I'm Trevor Knight,
And I'm Melinda May.
and this is our third episode of this podcast.
This nameless podcast.
Nameless podcast as of yet. We talk about living in New York. We talk about songwriting. We talk about goals, personal development, habits, a lot of interesting things. I feel, and I'm confident that you will find it interesting and entertaining and encouraging. So, yeah, we invite you to join us, and thank you for spending your time listening to us.
Thanks for listening. Enjoy. So, Makeup is coming out on Black Friday.
That's not what it's called.
It's not what it's called. But it's
Is that why it said Black Friday in your story? I
Yeah.
didn't get that connection because it
Mhm.
was like kind of a tangential idea.
But you will.
Okay.
You'll see. But yeah, so it's coming out on Black Friday, and I'm so excited.
But it's still called You Like Me Better, right?
Okay, so here's the
Oh,
thing.
boy.
I was faced, Trevor, with a choice, okay, of like,
Okay.
the question on the table was, who are you as an artist, and like, who are you communicating that you are as an artist? And I feel like for Trevor, this is an easier question because
Guys have it easier. For
guys
sure.
have it easier, okay? Number one. And number two, like, I never know if as an artist, if I should lean into like my edgy side, which is 100% there, or if I should lean into my wholesome side, which is also there. And they coexist quite nicely, but I need
Right.
yeah.
Porque no los dos. Kaleidoscope of moods.
Yeah. So, but the thing is so I was afraid that if I named it with my makeup on and I had this like lovely picture, that it was a little too on the nose or something. And like not moody or mature enough. Okay. So then I was like, I'm going to go the moody route because that seems to be getting more attention from industry people. But then when I looked at my work over what I'm planning to do for the next couple months, I'm releasing Chemicals. And I know you don't know that song by heart, but it's such a, you're just a guy whose face light hits the right way. It was God who decided to give you those eyes. Like it's very wholesome. Okay. And I already picked a color scheme for that, which is pink and white. And so I thought, this is what I'm doing right now. And this is what my plan for the next 6 months. I need it all to be cohesive, and this is what it is. If next year I want to be a goth, that's what I'll do. Like I could do whatever I want, but right now I have to be true to like the state I'm in. And even though almost every single industry person said you should name it You Like Me Better, because
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
After hearing it, or just
After
asking?
hearing it.
Okay.
After hearing it. But, well, no, not everyone after hearing it, but I sent them the song, and some of them answered the question right away. But yeah. So, anyway, I'm finally at a place where it makes sense to me. I'm like, I need a big picture to be able to do stuff, I think everyone does to some degree. So now I see the big picture, and I'm confident about this. So that's what it is.
It's called...
Oh, with my makeup on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is my initial reaction.
Okay, Trev. Yes, that's true.
Okay. At some point after this is over, we should talk about that because I may have told somebody after you said it's going to be called You Like Me Better. I've decided.
Who did you tell?
So like this interview that I did,
Mm-hmm.
I told them.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's okay. They'll figure it out.
Okay.
They'll find me.
All right.
And plus, that happens with
That happens with people.
with major like recording artists. Like I don't care. Thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
Great. Yeah. So anyway, okay.
Alas, here we are.
I kind of want to ask you like a sort of generic question.
Okay.
What is the last book you read? And tell me all about it.
Oh, man. We would have to look at my Audible account because I pretty much only listen to music now and listen to books.
Wow, we're gonna look in real time.
In real time.
That's cool.
Unrehearsed. Unstaged.
He doesn't know.
I don't know. I read a lot of books at the same time.
Yeah.
The last book I finished was Atomic Habits. I think I told you about that one.
Yeah.
I'm reading The 4-Hour Workweek right now, which you had recommended. I've read a bunch of other books in that vein. But yeah, Atomic Habits, which was really interesting. It's basically the premise of that book is environment design. So one of the claims it makes is that people who are very successful in their field aren't any more, or people that have really good habits aren't any more disciplined than other people. They just put themselves in situations to succeed. You know, if you want to develop a good habit or stop a bad habit, you make the good habit attractive, you make it easy, you make it well known. And if you want to stop something bad, you make that habit very difficult, very unappealing, and also like public. So like if you want to stop watching TV, I think I mentioned this one to you, just unplug the TV after you're done watching it. And then every time you go to watch TV again, you're going to be like, wait, I have to plug in this TV. Why am I doing this? Do I really need to watch TV?
And I think it's not that it will be too much of a hassle for you to plug in the TV. It will trigger you to rethink your decision.
Yeah. Those little gatekeeper moments where you have to rethink the action that you're taking. With a difficult habit, make it a lot less likely you're going to do that. On the other side, with good habits, if you make it so you don't have to think at all, if you say, I want to start reading more, and you like to read in your bed, if you get up in the morning and as you get out of bed, you put a book on your pillow, what are you going to do when you get in bed? You're going to have to move the book, right? Or you're going to read it. So it's the same sort of thing with something you want to do, making it very easy and very appealing to do that thing. And those are just some examples, but it was basically about, I love reading those kind of books because they're applicable to everyone at every stage in your life, and they're going to help enrich every part of your life. So there were a lot of like little tips and tricks like that, as well as grander scheme things like how does the human brain form habits, and like debunking a lot of the myths of 21 times or like 30 days or whatever. Basically the frequency of it is, it's not as cut and dry as some people think. So I thought it was very interesting. I would recommend it.
So
I think it'd be beneficial to literally anyone, because everyone has stuff they want to stop doing and stuff they want to start doing.
Yeah. When I think of habits, I think of, this is what I know about habits. Tell me if this rings true to you. When you do something, when you say something, when you think something, which is wild, it literally creates a physical pathway in your brain, like an actual neurological pathway. Maybe that's not the right word, but that's literally there. And so the more that you do the habit, the more you reinforce that, you know? So bad habits, that's why bad habits are so hard to break, and that's why some are harder to break than others, because you might have really deep tracks that you're trying to get out of there. So it could take 2 days to break a habit, unlikely, but it could take longer. I think it just depends on what you've done with that.
How established those pathways are.
Right. Yeah. That's why I think it's really important to really have authority over your thoughts, because if
huge thing.
If you're thinking the wrong thing, like, stop, because your brain will form an actual, I mean, you could see it on a brain scan, you know. So what are some of the habits that you did you implement something specific that you can talk about or no?
Sure. I mean, I wanted to start journaling more, and now I do it every day, which is great. So I put my journal on top of my computer. So like before I do anything, I have to move it, right? Yeah. So now when I wake up in the morning, I just quick write down what I did yesterday, what I want to do today. Other little things, like I started putting my alarm plugged into the wall, and I have a lofted bed, so I can't shut it off without getting out of bed, you know? So I started putting it further down, so now it's very difficult to get out of bed, shut off your alarm, and be like, I want to climb back up into my lofted bed, and that whole time you're doing that, you're like, I'm a failure.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, the guilt is like too much.
Yeah, so it's little things like that, like having more structure to my day, making sure I like exercised at the right times, making sure I just having a more formulaic approach to what I'm doing. I'm still kind of working through it, and I'm sure there's many more ideas that I'll come up with, but it's been beneficial for sure. And even if it's not concrete things you're doing, it's a good frame of mind to be in. You know, as you do something new, it can be beneficial to think, okay, is this something I want to keep doing in the future? How do I make it so that if I want to do this again, it's easy, you know?
Yeah. Yes. It's even the act of setting yourself up for this is what I want to do. You've already helped yourself by reinforcing the idea that you can accomplish it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I know that you had shared that with me before, and I remember thinking like that's good because, and you know what else it falls into? If you want to make a change in your life, when someone posed this question to me, it was very helpful. How can you change 5%? Like, how can you help yourself not 100%? How can you improve 5%?
Yeah.
And just do that.
You would love this book.
Yeah, I should read it.
So, one of the anecdotes it uses is I think it was the British cycling team. They were like one of the worst for like 20 years, right? They were always like bottom of the barrel when it came to like Olympic competitions. And they brought in this new coach, and his philosophy was 1% improvements. So everything was on the table. They started painting the like inside of their storage shed white so they could see dust, and they would never accumulate dust, and the equipment would always be in prime condition. Like, they outfitted every athlete with a mattress that was specifically designed for their body. And it was all these tiny things you're like, okay, that sounds great, but it's not going to make a difference in a bike race. And it didn't in 1 year. But 5 years later than that, they were literally the number one cycling team in the world.
That's amazing. And it
because
makes
they
a lot
had
of
made
sense.
dozens of these tiny changes that accumulated.
And it changed the way they think.
Right.
That's neat. And that makes a lot of sense. And it definitely sounds, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is a habit you're trying to break, or one you want to form, or both?
I want to, I've been doing this, so it's good, but spending time in the morning every day with God has been amazing. And then what else? I don't know off the top, Trev. I really don't.
All your habits are great. That's great.
I knew you were going to say that. That's not true. But, other things too. You know, I came up with like a budgeting system a while ago, and I'm still doing that. And it's hard to think of now because a lot of these are in motion right now. So, but I did spend a lot of time thinking about this, and I will have to again because life just kind of goes like this.
Sure.
But right now I'm doing well with these things, so they're not at the ready. I'm just kind of like going right now, but I'll at some point sit down, check in, wait, what do I need to do? This, implement. But I'm not in one of those times right now. I'm in an extremely creative time right now. Writing constantly, ideas constantly. It's amazing.
You got to use that because it doesn't happen
exactly.
that often.
Like there are days I forget to eat because I'm just like, I'm there right now. As I said, there will 100%, I hope it's not for a while, but there will be a time where I'm more back into, okay, let's work on the framework that my ideas can thrive in, framework of my life being schedule and discipline and stuff like that. But right now, I had my time. God was good to me. He built me a great framework. It's functional. It can always be improved, but it's functional right now. And so I can work with my ideas in a way that makes sense and pushes them forward.
Yeah.
So it's good.
That's something I definitely believe when it comes to creativity is I think you can impose it on yourself. I think artists get in this trap where, I'm not inspired, I can't write today or whatever. So if I think we've had this conversation before, if someone were to sit down across the table from you and say, I will give you $1,000 if you write this song in an hour, you would write a killer song in an hour, you know? So I think if you have to force it on yourself, it can be done. But when you have those hours or days or weeks, it sounds like for you, where you're just inspired, you have to use that because that's where the best stuff comes from, is from a place of meaning and a place of something that actually is substantial to you. So if you have a day where you feel, wow, I'm inspired, I have all these ideas, I know how to implement them, you got to push other stuff out of the way because that doesn't always happen.
Right. And I totally agree with you, and that's really empowering. You absolutely do not have to feel inspired to be creative. It's a myth. You don't have to do it. You are creative. You just are. You always are. And also, your feelings, and this is going to sound maybe harsh, but it's not meant to be harsh. Our culture puts so much importance on feelings.
Oh my gosh. This is right up my alley.
Because you're hard
yes.
Trev. I know you're hard Trev. But like, your feelings are just not,
they're not always justified.
It's not even that. They're not important. They're fun things that you can feel and play with, but my feelings are subject to me, and I make decisions about what I'm doing, and I can, by my behavior, manipulate my feelings. Retweet. Right. Like, so it's really important to believe and understand that you are in control of your feelings. They're not controlling you. So totally agree. But at the same time, incredibly thankful for this rush of inspiration that God has given me right now. And I thought of something I'm trying to work on just now. It came to me.
What's that?
I want to take less cabs.
Oh, yeah.
Really want to. So
those add up for sure.
Those add up. So yeah, that's definitely.
Well, you have a bike, right? I guess
Yes.
it's getting cold, which is a battle.
I know, but I have a ski mask, and like I can make it work. I mean, I'll take the goal is not to take 0 cabs, because that will never happen, and then I'll just feel like a failure. I've made that mistake before. It's just not going to happen. Sometimes I come home at like 2 a.m., et cetera, et cetera. But to take less cabs is definitely possible.
Something in that book that it touched on and recommended was when you have something like that can be sort of nebulous. Oh, I want to do this less, is to every time you actively don't take a cab, log whatever it is, $15, $20 in something. And then at the end of a week or end of a month, you'll see how much money you actually saved. And you can say, wow, I can actually spend that on something else because I would have spent it anyway on cabs. But if you don't have any sort of sense for how much you're actually doing it, it can be very hard to chart if you're doing it well.
Yeah. Yes. The budget thing helps with that. And I believe that I have a very brilliant budgeting system. It works super well. And
it's important, especially in New York where everything's expensive.
Yeah. And part of my system is I can see everything at the ready of what. So that helps a lot. It's similar to what you're saying. Like, you need an idea, a tangible, this dollar amount kind of thing. But yeah.
Sort of related to that. I think I told you this. I went to my friend who goes to a different church. I went to her youth group night thing. And one of the questions they posed there was, what is something you're grateful for that you haven't acknowledged that you're grateful for? And the answer I came up with was living in New York, because you look around and it's an amazing place. There are many people around the world who their dream is to like move to New York and do something. Even to like scrape by in New York is a dream for a lot of people, and I think I had been taking that for granted. So what is your favorite and least favorite thing about living here? And you've been living here for a long time, longer than me.
Yeah. I love everything about New York City. And when I leave New York City, I miss it. And then as soon as my plane comes in or my bus comes in and I see the skyline, I'm like, oh. And every time I'm like, oh my, I can't believe I live in New York. And I've been here 7 years and I'm still feeling that way. It's just, I love this city. Okay, so my favorite part about New York, I can list 2 probably. The first is that every little place of it feels different. Like Soho feels so different than Greenpoint, feels so different than Midtown, feels so different than Upper West Side. But you can get to all those places, and I know all of those places like the back of my hand, but they're also, I mean, if I'm going out in the Lower East Side, that's a totally different night if I'm going out in Midtown. It's different. And that is such a blessing for me, because sometimes I feel like Lower East Side and and sometimes I feel like Brooklyn. And so it's like inexpressible how much I enjoy that. Okay, so second thing is the mix of cultures and people. When you can ask someone, well, what country did you grow up in? How did that work? What was that like? And different religions, socioeconomic situations. It's just so it's a playground for my mind because I love getting to know people and I love asking questions, and it's just something that inspires me. And so I never run out of people to ask questions to, and I'm never bored. And you could say that's true in any city, I think, because people are inherently interesting. If someone is boring, it's typically because they're too insecure to tell you what they're really about or really thinking about. But sometimes if you make them feel safe,
that's an interesting perspective.
No one's boring, and no human being is boring. They're just a little maybe inhibited or something. But anyway, but specifically in New York, just meeting people who specifically come from other countries and have a life so incredibly different than mine and an upbringing different than mine is so cool. And this is kind of like a simple one, but everything I need and want is always there. At any time, no matter what.
24 hours.
And I'm so spoiled no matter where I travel to. It's, oh, I'm in the mood for this at 2 a.m. It's just nowhere. You can't have that thing. It's typically like, I don't know, cold brew or something. But I
did that last night on the walk home.
Did
Snagged
you?
a couple slices at Carmine's Pizzeria. Oh, beautiful choice.
See?
No regrets.
Right. And or if you want to go to like a sit-down restaurant at 2 a.m. or if you want to, whatever you want to do, walk in a park or something, or I don't know, or sit by the water. Things are just open all the time. And not only that, but there's always a part of the city that's moving, as opposed to other cities where you feel, oh, I shouldn't be here at 3 a.m.
Right.
In New York, you can always find a place where lights are on, people are out. It doesn't feel unsafe. So I love New York. Yeah. I would say my least favorite part of New York. Now let me think about this. My least favorite part of New York is sometimes there's not enough physical space, literally, on the train or like walking down the street. And that can
or in your apartment, depending on where you live.
And sometimes that could be a completely unnecessary added stressor. Not a big life stressor, but just a little need a little space. But that's such a small thing. I can barely think of things I don't like about New York. I'm just reaching here. What's your least favorite thing about New York? I want to hear.
I don't have a lot of things I don't like either, which is, I think that opinion that we both share is pretty rare. There are a lot of people that moved to New York and they're gone in a year and a half or 2 years because it takes it out of you. I don't have a lot of those things. I don't get stressed very easily, and not a lot of things bother me. So that definitely helps. I mean, one of the things that could be better is obviously it's far away from my family. So anytime I want to see them, it's its own event. I have to book a flight. I have to take the train to the airport, and it's its whole deal. But that's that's me looking for things. There's not a lot of things I don't like.
There's never a part where I'm like, oh God, this is the thing I don't like about this city.
Right.
That thought just doesn't occur to me.
Yes, some people complain about the trains. I love the trains. It's so nice to be able to not have a car and get anywhere in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I
also love the idea of not having to park my car, or worry about my car, tickets. I played that game in New York. It's nice to have a car because you have your own thing going on, but I'd rather just be me and free and just float around. But yeah.
I will say one of my favorite things, probably my favorite thing, in addition to the things you said, all valid. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. There's so many people with so many different life stories, and I think it's beneficial to be around and be in an environment like that. But my favorite thing is some people call it the energy, but I wouldn't even call it that. I think there's a collective mutual understanding of and respect that each person has for each other person. Everyone, unless you grew up in Midtown or whatever, everyone is in New York to make it in something, and there's such a clear understanding of that from person to person. And I saw it when I was working in finance. You know, you get on the desk at 6 a.m. and there's all these other people around you, and you can look around and be like, yeah, not every day is easy, but like you understand, like you're trying to make it in something. And you see it when you go to open mics. You know, you have all these musicians that show up and pay to play on this stage, and there's a mutual sense of respect. You know, everyone is trying their hardest to do something they want to do, you know, and it's amazing. And it's not always glorious. There's plenty of people who work construction, who work in restaurants or whatever, and maybe that's not the thing they want to do, but they're using that to have a life that they want. So I don't know. There's the work ethic and the energy and the mentality. I haven't seen that anywhere else.
I totally agree. I would say that's in my top 3, especially because I love doing stuff. I don't actually like watching TV. I don't like necessarily going to restaurants. Like I like to be doing stuff. And New York is a city where you will never run out of people who want to do projects. Everyone's in that mindset of, yeah, let's do this. Let's make this. Let's go here. Let's get this started. And you're right. It's not a great word, but it'll work. It's the energy here, the vibe or whatever, the culture. But it's just a let's go do it type of place. It's a place where if you have that attitude of let's go do it, you can find other people like that too, as opposed to in a small town, people are like, you can't do that. Well, why are you doing
exactly,
that? What do you mean?
And it's never weird. Whatever you're doing, it's never weird because there are thousands of other people doing it, you know? If you were to walk into a bar and meet someone brand new and they were to ask you what you do and you're like, I'm an actor, I sing on the side, I work for a church, I do some, you know, I work for a moving company on the weekends, they'd be like, okay. Yeah. Whereas if you were to do that back home, it might be totally weird. Be like, get your life together. Yeah. What are you doing?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or if you were to say, oh, I work in finance, or oh, I'm a paralegal, or oh, I'm an EMT, or whatever, nothing's weird. Right. You know, there's so many people who are doing so many different things, and it's just there's such an accepting nature of that.
Because there's so many people that nobody cares about your, you know, which I think was the first thing that struck me about New York. Like, it's very hard to be. Do you know the expression like a tall poppy? It's like
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's an Australian thing, but you really can't do that here. Like you can't get to it's or it would be very difficult.
Sure.
You could get into the wrong friend group maybe, but typically you can just go with no worries about getting to or making waves. You're not going to it's just there's all waves everywhere, you know. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad we're on the same page then. New York's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll ask you a question now.
Okay.
So we were talking last night about songwriting process. So tell me how, first of all, where and when do your ideas start? What is a song that Trevor has written? Where did it first begin? Is it I sat down at my desk and I wrote it down? Is it I was walking down the street and I had an idea? And then after you have discovered this little idea that has unlimited potential, what are the steps you take to get it into a concrete piece of work?
That's interesting. And it depends. I go through the same thing you go through sometimes, where you have those moments where you're inspired and I need to just get up and stop what I'm doing and like go flush out whatever this idea is, because I don't know what it's going to be and I don't want to let that moment pass, you know? That's why people like us have a ton of voice memos on their phone, you know? There have been plenty of times where I'm walking down the street and then this little like or whatever it is, like little thing pops into my head and I'm like, I need to remember this for later, and then I'll just make a voice memo. So sometimes that happens. For me, I'll give you an example. So you've heard On My Way Home, right? So I started writing that when I was on my way home, from an open mic. So I played this open mic at Prohibition on the Upper West Side, and I left like relatively early in the night. I was tired. I had to get up early, and I was walking down the street, and the Upper West Side at night is beautiful, and the streets were like empty, and they were well lit, and it was amazing. It was pristine, and I was struck with this moment of inspiration. I'm like, wow, I'm on my way home. There's this like big party going on behind me, but I'm so happy to be like on my way home. So I was like, there has to be a concept there. And, eventually the song turned into something that, on my way home, it's kind of a sad song. But it started with that idea that people are on their way home all the time from something. And there's a lot of thoughts that go through your mind when you're doing that on the thing you're going to, the thing you just left, the people you saw there, the things you should have said and didn't say.
So did you make a voice memo at that moment, or did you?
I made a voice memo at that moment, and the
Wow.
subway stop at, I think, 86th on the Upper West Side. So I made a voice memo, and then I think I flushed it out in one of those Hardo Trev sessions where I was like, I'm gonna write this song. I have this idea. So I spent, an hour or two just kind of banging out what I think would work as a verse and a chorus. And
Did you spend that hour or two the next day, that night?
it wasn't that night. It was definitely that week. It was like a day or two later, I would
And it
say.
was here.
It
Or was it
was
in the
no,
park?
it was at my old place in Battery Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was before I had moved. I may have even still been working in finance at that time. It's hard to remember. Yeah. But yeah, so sometimes it's a little thing like that, a moment of inspiration, and then I flush it out later. That's generally how it happens. A lot of times, like the last couple days when I've just been banging around on the piano, sometimes I find a new chord progression that I like, and I'll record a voice memo, and I will literally say in the voice memo, this chord progression is like C, B flat major, G, A minor, whatever, and then I'll play it, and then I'll save it for later, and then when I'm trying to, if I have a word or a phrase that I like, and I'm trying to think of how to match that to something musical, I can go back to those chord progression ones and say which one of these would make sense with the theme of. So sometimes it starts with music, sometimes it starts with like a concept, like on my way home. That's a little more rare for me. I think it starts with music more often for me. Like a chord progression is generally how I start. But there are a few songs like that one, like Keep On Swinging, started with a concept. Like I wanted to write a song about everything baseball had taught me. So I eventually got to that. I think that's a little more difficult for me than starting with music.
I think we're in agreement, though. I think it's interesting. I really think it's a myth that any song ever just kind of, wait, let me take that back. Sometimes, but it's such a low percentage of times that a song just comes together. It really, at some point, and
I will say that did kind of happen with Not That Kind of Guy.
did it?
That
You
was
never
like
had a
a
moment of, like,
2-hour
really just-
endeavor. Yeah.
Even though it took 2 hours. And the same thing with me for like You Picked the Girl with the Tattoo. That song just I wrote it right
Yeah.
before a show and it just came out. But there's still those moments of nailing it down and like sitting down with it and like really trying to.
Oh, sure. And even
Yeah.
even if it's a very inspired song, as you play it more and as you maybe perform it, you're gonna make changes. You're gonna think
Yes, because it evolves. It grows.
the editing of like that final 2% always takes a while. Like getting the exact right word, getting the transitions between structured points in the song. Definitely,
Yes.
that takes time.
That's why I think it's so important. And okay, wait, so many thoughts at once. So number one, that's why it's important to perform your songs before you record them.
Oh, definitely.
Because when you put them in front of people and they mature. They become
Sure.
you can think about them a different way, and it really helps to fine tune them. Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. You have this thing when it's just you, but as you put it in front of other people, you see how, okay, this can be clear, this can be different or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely agree. It's important to get it out of your own head. Even if you're playing it in your apartment and you know exactly how it sounds, as soon as you step on stage and someone else hears it, the perception of that song, even to you, changes, at least for me. As soon as I know someone else is listening to this, I'm much more conscious of how it sounds now,
Of course. That's why, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I totally agree.
And that's why I love going to open mics and trying new things. And like the open mic I went to, 2 days ago, I tried that new song that you had told me I should finish, and I did my best to finish it, and it went
I
like,
hear that song.
yeah, you'll hear it at the show if you come. But yeah, I totally agree. You gotta throw your hat in the ring and try new things, and especially in a public setting. It gives you accountability. Definitely.
It's an interesting balance too, because if like right now, you know the song I wrote, Yes, Yes?
I mean, I don't know it. You've told me about it, but yes.
You know of it. That song is not it's not ready. It's done. Everything's done about it, but I'm just positive it can't see other people's ears yet. It's not quite there. So it is a balance, you know? But yeah, it'll be ready by
Wait, why not? What's
because I'm still I like that you ask. I'll be like, here's an idea. And you're like, no, nail it down. You know, it's really helpful. So there's still parts of it that I'm a little shaky on, you know, a little like maybe this phrasing, maybe that phrasing. Maybe I pick this note, maybe I pick that note.
Sure.
And the listener will perceive that and they'll take that in when you perform it. And then that will affect how they think of it. And to me, a song is ready for a listener when I'm like, okay, I might change it, but I've made firm decisions on how it sounds and what the structure is. Like, these are the decisions I've made about the song. Now I'll take them to you. But when I'm in a place of, this line could also work like this, it's not ready for ears yet, in my opinion. That's not a hard, fast rule. There's always exceptions. But typically, I think that's how it goes for me. It's still I still need it to exist only in my head so that I can really wrap myself around it and around the ideas. Yeah, but that's where Yes, Yes is now. But it'll be ready on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's our music
yeah,
planning day,
that's
right?
our music planning day. That's right.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I forgot to put the timer on. So I don't know how long we've been going. But I would
Oh.
venture to say it's much longer than we feel like it has been.
What if it's shorter, though? We don't know.
I feel like it's not. We never really have that issue.
And even if it is, we said it's fine.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do something similar that we've done the last couple times where we do
Oh, yeah.
a question.
Ask a silly question.
Do you have a silly question? I think I've done the silly question the last 2 times.
I think it's a good tradition.
Oh, man. First thing that comes to mind when I say bucket list. What's on your bucket list?
I want to go to a lot of places. Well, I want to go to Israel and see a lot of stuff there. Bucket list. Yeah, and I also want to see some really cool geological features that are in Montana and South Dakota and stuff like that. I really want to hike a 14er. I told you that. I really want to do that. It's so much fun. What else is on my bucket list? That's all I can think of at the moment. I'll keep it short, I guess.
Well, those are good things.
Yeah.
So many things. I want to go to Australia. I want to see all the animals. I want to snorkel in the Great Barrier Reef. It's just a totally different continent. You know, it's different than anywhere else. So I want to experience that. I want to go to India. Also, totally different place than anywhere I've been. I want to go to South America. A lot of it's traveling, I guess. I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I got to go to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Have you?
No, I haven't. But
that's on there for sure.
Yeah. And I was telling you last night how I got on like a geology kick a few months ago. And
right.
So there's amazing things that you can see like just in our country that I really want to see.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But let's name one other thing that's not just traveling that's on your bucket list. It's hard.
Oh, man.
I know. It's so hard. What do I want to do? Or
I think I actually wrote out a bucket list many years ago. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, I want to have a song in a movie, for sure. A song I wrote is going to be in a movie someday.
Yeah. I have
That's
a lot
on
of things like that, for sure. Yes. I want to meet John Mayer. I just have a feeling that I will.
That's doable.
Yeah, I just think I will. And I have a ton, like you just said, obviously.
Music goals, yeah.
Yeah, but those aren't even like a bucket list thing. Those are more, you know.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what I'm doing, you know, God willing. So, yeah. All right, let's do the intro.
Cool,
yeah.
cool. Well, or the, exit first.
Oh, I always do this. I do this every time.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this broadcast. Leave a little comment, share it with your friend. We've had a great time doing this. If you have certain things you want us to talk about, let us know. But yeah, we really appreciate your attention, which is a very valuable commodity in this day and age. So yeah, thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for listening. And yeah, comment, like, share, and we'll see you for number 4.
Wonderful. Nice. I am curious what the